Hello heroes, Joe Smith here again. You know, Joe Smith ain't trying to sound racist or that, but Joe Smith is trying to well you know, Joe Smith's goddamn tired of all this lamestream media and Democrats and liberals and leftists and blacks acting like white people are racist when the white people ain't racist. There is no systemic racism. It's just the black people and the leftists and mainstream media run by the leftists trying to make it sound like there's systemic racism. And here you go again. This article claims a judge in Massachusetts, I believe it's Massachusetts, asked Harvard to find out why so many black people were in prison. And these people at Harvard could only be, well, it must be because systemic racism. And we'll scroll down and some of the findings are like it's not, well, first of all they're saying that it's not that black people are criminals, cops think that black people are criminals. Well, here's some facts. 90 to 92%, and YouTube keeps deleting this comment. Every time Joe Smith makes this comment, even when it's a pinned comment on his own video, YouTube deleted it twice yesterday. And every time Joe Smith says this, and he comments in another video, but YouTube deletes it. But between 90 to 92% of blacks murdered in the last 60 years were murdered by blacks. It's about, what, 70 to, somewhere between 70 and 80%. Forget the exact number, but let's just say 80%. 80% of whites murdered are murdered by whites. Blacks are more likely to murder whites than whites are to murder blacks. So blacks are more likely to murder whites than whites are to murder blacks. Yes, there's whites that murder blacks, but blacks are more likely to murder whites. Twice as many whites in 2020 alone, more than twice as many, have been killed by, or the people killed by police, more than twice as many were white. So over 2/3 of the people killed by police in 2020 have been white. Less than 1/3 have been black. And maybe not all of them, but some of them, half, maybe more than half, maybe a lot of them, of those blacks, and probably a lot of them whites too, were shot and killed by police. Well, they ran after the police with a knife or a gun, or shot a taser at them, or beat the police up, stole their taser and shot the taser at them, or pulled a gun and shot the gun at the police. So a lot of the people, both black and white, killed by police were killed in self-defense. Sure, the police make some mistakes now and then, but there's probably about an equal percentage of whites and blacks that were just kind of due to a mistake. But it's not like a black thing or anything like that. It's not a skin color thing. So yeah, it's not that black people are criminals, it's that cops think that black people are criminals because black people are more likely to be criminals. Blacks don't get bail, well, because blacks are more likely to get bail. Blacks are charged with higher offenses than whites. well, that might be open discussion. Maybe overall it's because they actually do commit higher offenses. Saying blacks are more likely to be charged with drug and gun offenses. Well, why? Because they're more likely to find drugs and guns on blacks. You know, every time Joe Smith watched Real World Police or Cops, and you know, maybe you want to call them shows racist, but it seems like half the time they pulled a black person over, they had guns or drugs. Or more than half the time. Maybe the reason why more black people get pulled over is because white people make sure their goddamn brake lights work. And tail lights work when they're smuggling drugs. Whereas the blacks are lazy and don't give a fuck if their brake lights or tail lights work, so they get pulled over. Because whenever Joe Smith watches Real World Police or Cops, these people that they're pulling over, that they're finding all these drugs and guns, they didn't pull them over for drugs and guns. They pull them over because they didn't use their blinker, or because they had a brake light out, or their tail light was out, or they're driving with one headlight. So many blacks are just a little bit more irresponsible when it comes to vehicle maintenance. Is why blacks get pulled over more than whites. The old saying goes, if you're going to be smuggling guns and drugs, make sure all the lights on your cars work. And make sure you follow the speed limit and use your blinker before you turn. Maybe it's because blacks are just a little bit dumber, or lazier or something, or don't give a crap about their the maintenance of their cars and vehicle safety and whatnot. Because yeah, there does seem to be a larger percentage of blacks being pulled over. But all these people, all these blacks, whether black or white even, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, purple, pink, blue, green, orange, yellow, these cops, these officers on Real World Police and on the Cops TV show, they're, most of the time it's like at night, or they can't see what color the person is driving. Most of the time they pull them over, they're like not wearing a seatbelt, got headlight out, got tail light out, brake light out, not using a blinker, speeding. So it's like, well, probably 99% of stops in which guns and drugs are found in a vehicle and arrests are made started with a lesser traffic offense. Maybe 100%, maybe all of them, but almost all of them started from a lesser traffic offense. Something that the cop was just going to give a warning for. Yeah, and blacks are more likely to run from the police. Police tries to pull you over, give you a warning that you forgot to use your blinker, or give you a warning that you got a brake light burnt out or a tail light burnt out. Well, blacks are more likely to take off and speed off and cause a high-speed chase. They didn't mention that in this study. They say they sentence blacks longer. Well, maybe blacks are more likely to recommit crimes. Maybe that's why. Blacks get higher bail. Well, maybe they're more likely to jump bail. I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, they're. And why is it the blacks, they're like, well, that's all because of racism. That's all because of racism, they're claiming. It's not because they only had one parent. It's not because they're poor. It wasn't just black on black crime. Yeah, some of it was black on white crime. You're right, it wasn't just black on black. Half of it was black on white. Not just because of video games, rap songs, they claim. Not because of poverty or education or two-parent homes, well actually one-parent homes they should have said. Or bootstrap shortage. Because they couldn't pull them up by their bootstraps. Well, you know, maybe it is. Because this article is just talking about how blacks get longer sentence or get higher bail. Or get denied parole more likely. Are more likely to get denied parole than whites. Well, all that's after the fact that the crime was committed. Well, we have an article about why the fuck they're committing the crimes in the first place. They say why they get higher bond after they commit the crimes, or why they get longer sentence after they commit the crimes, or why they're least likely to get parole, or have to wait longer before they get parole after they commit the crime. All this is talking about after they commit the crime. And the judge should, instead of having a leftist college do this study on why blacks get longer sentences or higher bonds or more higher punishment after they commit crime, they should what to a conservative college. And that's why the fuck the blacks are committing the crimes in the first place. Someone, please, someone, show Joe Smith one example of how racism caused a black person or any person to be murdered by a black person. Please show where, well, of course, if a black person murdered a white person, yeah, you're right, that is because of racism. Just like that 17-year-old girl in North Carolina a month ago that the news forgot to tell you about was murdered by 4 black people because of racism. And there you go. I mean, that's why more black people are in prison. Because more black people are racist and killing white people because they're freaking racist. Like it says, it was always racism. Yep. That's why that 17-year-old white girl got murdered in North Carolina, because it was racism. It was always racism. From racist blacks. Like David Orange. Why was David Orange killed? Was it because of racism? Was David Dorn killed because it was always racism? Was David Dorn a black man killed by a black man because of racism? What about all these black kids in Chicago killed by black people? Oh, they weren't the intended targets. That male lady last week that was killed by black people in Chicago. Oh, she wasn't the intended target. She was the only person on the fucking street who was the fucking intended target. A black man killed a little, 3-year-old white boy. His next door neighbor riding his bike on the driveway. Yeah, that was racism. It was always racism. That's why that black man killed that little white boy. Because of racism. It was always racism. Because blacks are always racist. They always have been. Joel Smith signing out.